Good morning, beautiful people. It is January 6th, 2020, and we're leading off this show after an incredible wild card weekend with some breaking news. The Dallas Cowboys have come to terms with Mike McCarthy, Pittsburgher Yinzer, formerly of the Green Bay Packers, as their new head coach for the Dallas Cowboys going into next season. Jason Garrett was formally released just yesterday. The best way to get over somebody is to get under somebody else. And in this case, the Dallas Cowboys have gotten under Mike McCarthy, who's been preparing for a head coaching gig since he was fired by the Green Bay Packers. The Mike McCarthy Project, which was debuted by the NFL Network and Tom Pelissero, how he has flipped his house in Green Bay into a pseudo NFL facility where he's been watching film as if he was a head coach all year. I think the Cowboys got it right. I thought Lincoln Riley would be a good answer because I thought Mike McCarthy would end up with the Cleveland Browns, to be honest with you. Instead, Mike McCarthy now is the Dallas Cowboys head coach with Dak Prescott, who we assume is going to get a contract, Ezekiel Elliott, Cobb, Cooper, a good offensive line, and I'd assume he has good connections for the defensive side of the ball, which could be explosive. Are the Dallas Cowboys back now that they have a veteran head coach who's going to know how to handle himself in big situations, who's won a Super Bowl? And although last time and how he ended at Green Bay was ugly, I mean, that's going to happen when you're with somebody for decades, which he and Aaron Rodgers were together. Sometimes you could just fall out of love with somebody or someplace. I think he's going to be rejuvenated. I think this is a good hire by Jerry Jones. And the news that Jason Garrett was released just yesterday happened during the Eagles game, which is just one last by the Dallas Cowboys to the Eagles. But congratulations to them on getting a new guy in charge of the star America's team. A Yinzer is now in charge of America's team, and I can respect that. Now, who are the Cleveland Browns going to hire? Are they going to hire Stefanski from the Minnesota Vikings, who go down into New Orleans and get a massive road win in the playoffs for Kirk Cousins to get the monkey off his back and not being able to win a big game? Will they talk to others? We will find out. Is Urban Meyer on the table for the Cleveland Browns? Possibly. A lot of wild card talk, a lot of coach talk, some phone calls, 1-833-622-3331. Mark Schlereth in the second hour. We got a lot of good talk, including where's Tom Brady going?
Yeah.
We know. We've been saying it since October 24th. Literally excited to get to all that. Evan Foxy, please play some Chase Rice.
It's the perfect occasion for a middle vacation from the heart of the nation. Not your medication, 2 hours of magic. Let's give it a go. Ladies and gents, it's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show.
Yes, it is, Chase Rice. I appreciate your handsome ass for that intro. If you're new to the show, know that on Mondays, every once in a while, when I get a chance to do the show Get Up at ESPN, we come to you live from New York City, New York, at 4 World Trade. Sitting across the table from me is a Green Bay Packer owner and legend, Ty Schmidt.
What a weekend. I mean, this could be recency bias, but I can't remember a better opening weekend of the NFL playoffs like in the last 20 years in my lifetime.
We had overtimes. We had controversy. We had big plays. We had a dynasty potentially falling. We had everything you could ever ask from an NFL weekend. And the games were on right after each other, so you could watch every game with exact intent without having to worry about leaving your couch or the vitamins. I absolutely loved Wild Card Weekend. Back in the back, directing people that he probably shouldn't be directing. Evan Foxy, the Detroit Lions, somehow have gotten worse this past weekend. How do you feel?
Pat, they stink. But if you would have told me Breeze and Brady would be out by Wild Card Weekend, would have called you crazy. New era of football. Here we go.
It does feel as if it's a new era of football. Zito's back there, 1-833-622-3331, answering phones. The Chicago Bears still not in the playoffs, and with all signs pointing that Mitchell Trubisky still coming back next year, do you think there's any Tom Brady in Chi-Town in the future, Zito?
We don't want him, and then it's a sad day for us right now. It's a year anniversary of the, you know what?
Double doink.
Oh, no. That kick was blocked. Cody Parkey didn't deserve all the hate.
Yeah.
That team proved this year that they stunk without Cody Parkey. Cody Parkey might have been the X factor that really kept that team together. Let's talk about this wild card weekend. We'll talk about Mike McCarthy being the Dallas Cowboys head coach. And now I think it's a great hire if McCarthy and Jerry can get along. A lot of reports have come out from Peter King, by the way, saying that Jerry is not that dictatorship that everybody thinks he is. He's actually let off the reins a little bit. He's been in the, Peter King said, I've been in the room during drafts where Jerry says, what do you guys want to do? What do you want to do? Hey, I've built this company up from nothing to $5 billion. Hey, I've won Super Bowls here. Hey, I own this whole shebang. But what do you want to do? Jerry has that ability, I guess, which is good because I think Mike McCarthy can be a little hard-nosed sometimes, which that team is going to need. We'll get to that in a few minutes, especially whenever Anthony DeGilio last week at Tone Diggs on our show said that he thought that Jason Garrett was potentially crying in his meetings with Jerry Jones. That's why Jerry couldn't fire him because he viewed him like he was his son. Turns out that might have been true.
Not too far off.
Everybody knows that whenever you're trying to break up with somebody or whatever it is and they start bawling right in your face, you have a little sense of, oh, I can't do it now. Well, I'll text you. I guess that was actually happening between Jerry and Jason Garrett. Diggs will call in with all the updates about what McCarthy brings to the Dallas Cowboys, where Jason Garrett goes now, and how he views those conversations going. Let's move forward to what wildcard weekend was. A lot of chat about that Vikings-Saints game, not only because it went to overtime and the overtime rules, the way they are, didn't let us see Drew Brees get out there and, like beer pong, get a rebuttal against that Kirk Cousins offense that threw a homa to Adam Thielen, who had a rough first quarter but came back in a massive way. I'm happy for the Vikings. Mm-hmm. The Vikings, everybody knows, we've talked about it, Week 4 had a full, colossal, public meltdown. Adam Thielen, who's a very fiery character, he's a very competitive person. He has to be that way to get him to the place that he is. He was an undrafted guy who had to go to a regional combine. He ran a 4.4, gets a job with the Vikings, becomes a superstar. Nobody ever gives him enough credit for being an athlete. He's always crafty or sneaky athletic, has become a big part of it. After Week 4, he said, basically, this offense stinks. Mm-hmm. He came out in a fit of frustration and said that this offense stinks. Then Stephon Diggs skipped practice on Wednesday because Kirk Cousins on the Kirk Cousins show apologized to Adam Thielen, didn't apologize to Stephon Diggs. We'll talk about Stephon Diggs on a sideline of a game that you're winning, in a game that your stats literally don't count. Like Stephon Diggs' stats from yesterday's game will never be counted. Ever. Like Adam Vinatieri's the all-time leading scorer, they don't count playoff points. He would have got that record like 10 years ago if that was the case. So your stats don't matter. You're in the lead in Superdome in a game where you're a dog, big-time dog, and you're still throwing your helmet and acting a fool. That's tough to handle.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. Kirk Cousins had to deal with that. Kirk Cousins had to deal with all the talk all year by us and by everybody that he just can't do it. He's worth $84 million guaranteed, and he just hasn't been able to show up in the big moments. Primetime Kirk gets born down there in Jerry World against the Dallas Cowboys. He kind of laid an egg against the Packers, but here he is in New Orleans at the Superdome, and Dalvin Cook is a weapon. And I know that they have that other running back who's a rookie who's also very talented and gets yards. But Dalvin Cook, when he's on the field, everybody on the defense has their eyes open for number 33. Everybody has their eyes open for the guy from Florida State who hadn't been able to stay healthy until this year. Everybody has their eyes on the guy who every time he gets it, he looks like he's running straight up and down and somehow runs over people, runs around people, and picks up 8 yards. So that type of running back, when he's on the field, allows Kirk Cousins to pick apart defenses. And when Kirk can do that, and when he's not overthinking, and he's getting a chance to let it loose, that Vikings team was fun to watch. And down goes Drew Brees in another walk-off touchdown for Saints fans to be heartbroken, but also conflicted because it sure did look like it was a potential push-off by Kyle Rudolph that wasn't even paused to be reviewed. I don't think they overturn it if they review it. I don't think it was egregious enough to overturn it. But the thought that they didn't even take a second just to be like, we will review this because just a year ago, this rule was instituted because of your team getting screwed. We will look at this just to see if there's anything. Instead, you got Mike Pereira saying, this looks like an offense pass interference to me. And then you have them going straight to, nope, game's over. Wasn't offense pass interference. Don't need to look at it any longer. See you later. This game's over. Saints fans pissed. Vikings fans, monkeys off Kirk Cousins back there, excited. I don't think they overturn whatever the call was on the field. They didn't call offensive pass interference. I don't think they overturn it. If it was called offensive pass interference, I don't think they overturn it. But congrats to the Vikings and the Saints. Another heartbreaker to end their season. It's going to be tough to survive another offseason whenever 3 straight years, the Minneapolis Miracle, the phantom no call on pass interference. Then they're saying another phantom no call on pass interference. The Drew Brees-led Saints just can't catch a break in the offseason or in the playoffs. And here we go. Now Kirk Cousins is moving forward with the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that Riveron and the NFLPA, or not the NFLPA, but the refs, they just love sticking it to New Orleans at this point. I really think that's part of it, because like you said, there was no discussion of it.
Not even a thought. He said that we looked at it. Fox was very good at getting us our angles. We saw it, and we decided it wasn't going to be over. It's like, just give it, for optics, just for the Saints fans, just slow it down and take a little peek-see at it, just so they know, like, hey, they did their due diligence, as opposed to Cameron Jordan, all-pro stud, by the way. He said that as soon as it was called, the refs are off the field, gone, not even a thought of reviewing it. That's not a good look for the NFL.
No, and I mean, so yeah, you can really point to that, but also the Vikings outplayed the Saints.
Oh yeah, that defense.
Unreal.
Made Drew Brees look amateur.
Exactly. They haven't turned the ball. They had 8 turnovers the whole year, the least in the NFL. They had 2 yesterday. Third down efficiency, they were 48%, which was third in the NFL this year. They were 4 for 11. Cousins on his own was 9 of 12 on third down for 108 yards and picked up 8 first downs. I mean, that's how you win football games.
9 third downs. Drew Brees dropped back to pass. He only completed 2 of them.
Yeah,
that is not Drew Brees football. That is not what the Saints do. Michael Thomas, he had some catches, but didn't have the massive day that he always has. It's one of those games where Drew Brees did not look his best.
Mm-mm.
The Vikings defense looked like they looked in the first half of the season. Now, you got to remember, in the first half of the season, the Minnesota Vikings defense was ranked 3rd overall. You had the Niners, the Patriots, and the Vikings defenses were winning them games. Because the offense wasn't as great for the Vikings, they were relying all on Dalvin Cook. They weren't throwing the ball to any of their weapons at all. Rudolph wasn't getting a rock. Diggs wasn't getting a rock. Thielen wasn't getting a rock. They were upset. That's why the public meltdown happened. But that defense was carrying that team for the first half of the year. And then they fell apart. See you later. Goodbye. But it doesn't matter what happens during the regular season. Who can get hot during the playoffs? And it feels as if this Vikings defense, if they can play like they played against Drew Brees, who is a buzzsaw. That offense, Sean Payton's brain with his Jordans on. I love the swag from Sean Payton, by the way. I absolutely love it. If they can stop that team, they have to feel like they can stop anybody. And that's a good feeling to have, especially when your quarterback has now this weight off his shoulders in overtime on the road. 7.5-point dog. You're able to lead your team down the field with a drop in a bucket. I mean, that was a perfect throw. Adam Thielen's catch was next level.
Yeah.
I mean, that he can't even see that ball when it's coming down because of the way the helmet is. But he dropped that thing in a bucket. Kirk Cousins feeling good. The defense is feeling good. Bailey's kicking well. Colquitt's punting well. That Vikings team, a team that I think everybody, we didn't think they were going to do it. We thought the Saints were going to win by 20. I hammered the Saints minus 7.5. I'm like, I don't even think that's enough. I almost took an alternate line that was like minus 10.5 because of how that Saints offense had been playing and how that defense had been playing. Demario Davis is this guy I never heard of before this year. He was a baller. Instead now, it's like, wait a minute. Is this Vikings team hot? Is this Vikings team a team that has potential of going to the Niners and making something happen? I mean, maybe. Maybe the Vikings can go into Santa Clara. And although George Kittle is an absolute game wrecker, George Kittle is a stud, a savage, he's hilarious, all those things. But they were able to make Michael Thomas look like a good wide receiver. I would assume that Zimmer, who started, by the way, here's a little fun fact. We like those. Mike Zimmer started coaching in 1979. Kyle Shanahan was born in 1979. Okay, so we got Kyle Shanahan, this young wizard of an offensive coordinator. Everybody knows that. From his PowerPoint presentation to get out of Cleveland to Atlanta to leading Matt Ryan, who looks like a very average quarterback, to an MVP year, to the Super Bowl, now to the Niners where he's led this team and they're undefeated for a long time. I mean, he's a wizard on the offensive side of the ball. He's a great head coach. He Kyle Shanahan's taking on Mike Zimmer, and I am excited for that matchup. I'm excited to see if this Vikings defense can repeat the performance that they just put up. And I think, honestly, the Vikings have a chance to win this game, and then the Vikings, obviously, are going to have to stare down the barrel of whoever wins Seattle, Green Bay. This NFC, which we thought was going to be Saints, this NFC that we thought was going to be this highly powerful offensive games, with the quick little Vikings defense wins a game, Niners defense is going to have to win a game, and the Packers defense is going to have to get to Russell Wilson because that deep ball could be a real threat with DK Metcalf going against the Packers, who are the worst-ranked deep ball defense team in the playoffs right now.
Yeah, I'd mentioned this to you before we went on the show. I'm really not as worried about that game as I would be in the past, I think. And I think the big thing, I mean, we'll get into it later, I'm sure, when we talk about it. The Seahawks don't really pressure the quarterback that well. They had 28 sacks this year. That was worse than
Aaron has time.
Exactly. And, you know, maybe they are ratcheting it up another level in the playoffs, but I think yesterday was more indicative of...
No, they had 7 sacks.
I know. I think that's more indicative of Philly's line being really banged up, and you get McCown in there. He's just kind of indecisive on some of, you know, I mean, he got sacked like 4 times where it's like he probably could have gotten it away. He could have found someone, but he just, you know, didn't trust it maybe enough. So, but you're right. Whoever pressures the quarterback more in that game, that's going to decide who wins.
All right, we got to get to a break because on the other side, we got to talk about the AFC now. The AFC there has a dynasty fallen. I'm wearing all black to mourn the greatest dynasty in sports potentially falling off of the throne. Are you kidding me? Are the Patriots dead? Did Mike Vrabel go into Gillette with King Henry, who rushed for 2 bills, and knock the dynasty off the top of the hill? We'll talk about that with a mass hole. I said mass hole. Boston Connor on the other side. I got some thoughts on Tom Brady. You've had them since October 24th. Welcome to everybody else. How awesome has this bowl season been, though?
Oh, the best.
This has truly been the biggest and best bowl season of all time. Yes, we've had great games. We've seen the stars of tomorrow on full display. But if you really want to know why this bowl season has been the biggest and best of all time, I'll tell you why. It's because of Cheez-It. Yes, Cheez-It, the official snack of bowl season. The cheesy, crunchy, satisfying snack is proud to be an official sponsor of the College Football Playoff. Hey, 1 week from today.
Oof.
1 week from today. Clemson LSU. It's going to be a barn burner down there in the bayou. Barn burner. Can't wait for it. Official snack of the College Football Playoff is Cheez-It. Maybe you cracked open a box on the couch during some bowl games, maybe even during the Cheez-It Bowl itself. Whether you did or not, and hopefully you did, now is the time to stock up on your Cheez-It supply for the College Football Playoff Championship game. So before next Monday night, do your taste buds a favor and get yourself a box of Cheez-It snacks. Cheez-It, official sponsor of the College Football Playoff. We'll be back on the other side to talk about the AFC side of things. Just handled the NFC side of things. The AFC is also interesting. The Ravens have to take on another running team. I would hammer the under just looking at that because it feels like the clock could potentially burn. Is Lamar Jackson going to be able to expose that Titans defense that looked very stingy against Tom Brady? Speaking of Tom Brady, is it over in New England? Oh my God. Chiefs probably win by 60 against the Texans, but it's the playoffs. You never know. We'll be back on the other side. This is the Pat McAfee Show.
Years ago, I had an undiagnosed heart condition, and erectile dysfunction was actually the first sign that something was wrong.
Luckily, I'm a doctor, an expert in sexual health, and Zach's dad.
Not everyone has a doctor in the house, and some health conditions can be really tough to talk about. We started Roman to change that.
Now you can go online and chat with a physician.
And if treatment is right for you, we'll ship genuine medication right to your door. If you're experiencing ED, hair loss, cold sores, or other issues, let's take care of it.
Stay with you forever all the time, and I'm stepping out to leave it all behind. I'm confident your love will be my sight. Just when looking at you, open up my eyes, and I'll stay with you forever all the time, and I'm stepping out to leave it all behind. I'm confident your love will be my sight. Hold out your hand, yeah. Every day you're with me when I think I can't stand, yeah. You got big things coming, part of your plan, yeah. Step up in your love, I see you the one I want. that you were giving is salvation. You would keep me moving if I'm patient. I just wanna give out to the racing. You love me so I could have be complacent. Not afraid of the battles I've been facing. Nothing that you do is ever wasted. And you got the fire like I'm blazing. Cause I was trying to copy when I faced them. Just when looking at you, open up my eyes. And I'll stay with you forever all the time. And I'm stepping out to leave it all behind. I'm confident your love will be my sight. Just when looking at you, open up my eyes. And I'll stay with you forever all the time. And I'm stepping out to leave it all behind. I'm confident your love will be my sight. Big mountain, what do I say? Them can never love you my way. You go low, then you go high. You go near, then you go far. You go calling around, 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 around. But you're falling down and down and down. You just wanna go the distance. Promise you I'm what you're missing. Promise you my life, promise you my time, promise you no lie. Yeah, yeah. Carry go, I'm on me more to carry load. Oh yeah, yeah. Oh da 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 da. Oh da 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 da. Just when looking at you, open up my eyes, and I'll stay with you forever all the time. And I'm stepping up to leave it all behind. I'm confident your love will be my sight. Just when looking at you, open up my eyes, and I'll stay with you forever all the time. And I'm stepping up to leave it all behind. I'm confident your love will be my sight. But sana sana nakupenda, roho yangu umeguza, Mungu nisho kama huyu ni mke wangu. Sana sana nakupenda, roho yangu umeguza, roho yangu umeguza. Yeah, yeah. Just when looking at you, open up my eyes, and I'll stay with you forever all the time. And I'm stepping out to leave it all behind. I'm confident your love will be my sight. Just when looking at you, open up my eyes, and I'll stay with you forever all the time. And I'm stepping out to leave it all behind. I'm confident your love will be my sight. Hold out your hand, yeah. Every day you're with me when I think I can't stand, yeah. You got big things coming, part of your plan, yeah. Step up in your love, I see you're the one I want. The love that you were giving is salvation. You would keep me moving if I'm patient. I just wanna give out to the racing. You love me so I could have be complacent. Not afraid of the battles I've been facing. Nothing that you do is ever wasted. And you got the fire like I'm blazing. Cause I was trying to copy when I faced them.
I guess we could let it build a little bit. You think station identification's done somewhere?
Yeah, probably.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show here on this January 6th, 2020, the day that Mike McCarthy has been announced as the new Dallas Cowboys head coach. Congrats to him. Congrats to the Cowboys. What will the Cleveland Brownies do now? What will the Giants do now? What will the Carolina Panthers do now? Who knows? Who cares? Let's talk about some football. The AFC side saw an upset. Yeah, I think so. A pretty big upset when the Titans traveled into Gillette Stadium in Foxborough in Derrick Henry, in Ryan Tannehill, in Mike Vrabel's big brain Belichicking Belichick towards the end of that, and Brett Kern took down the Patriots in the wild card division, a game that the Patriots hadn't played since 2009, their earliest exit from the playoffs in a long time. Their quarterback is no longer under contract. He almost looked relieved in the press conference after the game. All year, he's looked beat up. He's looked emotional. He's looked depressed. After this loss to the Titans, it was almost like he looked relieved. And if you look back just a few weeks ago, he was literally looking at the wide receiver saying, I need you to be faster. I need you to be quicker. I need you to be more explosive. That never happened. The Patriots-Titans game was just a microcosm of the Patriots season. The only thing that was missing was a big special teams play. And instead, the Titans got one of those with Brett Kern being a monster. The defense kept them in the game. The offense just couldn't do a damn thing. And if you're a quarterback of a team where you have no weapons and you feel as if you're just drowning out there, especially at the end of the best dynasty in the history of sports, you can't help but wonder where Tom Brady's going to be next year. On October 24th, we made the declaration speculation that we think the Chargers would be a good home for him. I think the way this is going to go is Tom Brady's going to say this. I would like to be a Patriot. I love the New England Patriots. He said, I love playing for Kraft. I love playing for Belichick. He said all the right things with his little beanie on, looking younger than ever. I don't know how he does it. TB12 treatment. I think he's going to say, I need more weapons. I need to be promised that this offense can at least function without me having to make magical play after magical play after magical play. I'm 42 years old. I'd like a little bit of help. And if they can't promise him that, I think Tom Brady is okay going somewhere else. I do believe this is potentially a leverage ploy by Tom Brady to not only get money, because Tom Brady is owed all the money in the world. He's the best quarterback of all time. Everybody who knows football will say that. But I think this is for him to think about a way to restock that offense so that he can be the great Tom Brady we all know him as. Now, there's a lot of Patriots fans that are in complete denial. They think that his contract being up, which was his choice, by the way, he opted out of it. They think that since the Patriots are out in the wild card, not a problem, we'll be back next year. I think there's a lot of drama and controversy cooking behind the scenes that these massholes do not want to realize. We have one of those on the line, good friend of ours, man from the show, Boston Connor. Mr. Connor, what are your thoughts on the entire Patriots dynasty, the greatest dynasty in all of sports, potentially being done with and in the rear view? Spaceships don't come equipped with rear view mirrors. They dip. It's almost like the rocket ship has dipped from New England and a dynasty is going to be built somewhere else now that Tom Brady is probably heading to a new home.
Hey, look, when you have Bill Belichick, a.k.a. Han Solo, piloting the Millennium Falcon that is this dynasty, we always have a chance. Now, Brady does need some weapons. That's why he's asking for them. And what better way for Bill to go back into the lab, have more time now to prepare for the draft, just like he did in 2009, had one of his best drafts in 2010. Do not give Bill more time. That will only carry this dynasty for another 10 more years.
So you think they lost on purpose so Bill can get more time studying and scouting younger players so that they can have a better draft to bring in more weapons for Tom Brady?
I mean, you can't win the Super Bowl every year. I know going in every year we expect it, but when we don't, when it doesn't happen, the whole world explodes and the dynasty ends. But now we're giving Bill Belichick more time. This is exactly what the NFL didn't want to do. The NFL should want the Patriots to go to the Super Bowl every year so that they have a chance to not reload the way we're going to now. And we're going to go out and get a free agent like A.J. Green, maybe Austin Hooper, a guy that Brady will love to have next year.
A.J. Green would be a hell of a weapon up there for Tom, but do you think that Bill Belichick understands that this is his fault, that the Patriots aren't good because he is the general manager? Do you think Bill Belichick has it in his soul to not be the one to say, hey, Tom's offense was terrible, our defense was good, instead of thinking, you know what, maybe I didn't put enough weapons around Tom Brady. Maybe whenever I let Josh Gordon go now, who obviously has failed another test and stuff like that, maybe I didn't bring in enough weapons. You think Bill Belichick is humble enough, the same guy that is completely okay releasing an all-pro player 2 years before they're done instead of holding on until they're done? You think Bill Belichick is going to look in the mirror and say this was my fault and not Tom Brady's fault, and you think that conversation is going to end positively?
I think any conversation that Bill has with himself always ends positively. So if he's looking in the mirror, he's definitely ending it with a smile. I mean, we know Bill; he's a charismatic guy. But I do think that at the end of the season here, Belichick does have to realize maybe I did leave Brady out to dry a little bit here. And going forward, that won't happen again. We won't be signing guys that are going to be failing drug tests. We'll be signing guys like A.J. Green, who now just want to win.
Do you think Tom Brady is a Patriot next year, or do you not think Tom Brady is a Patriot? And does it matter to the Patriots if Tom Brady's a quarterback?
Look, it's been my life's greatest honor to watch Tom Brady play football for the New England Patriots. If it was the last game that we saw him in a Patriots uniform, kumbaya, I love him to death. I wish him all the best success. With that being said, having a head coach and having a culture is the most important part of a dynasty. As long as we have Bill Belichick, we will be okay.
All right. Thank you, Connor. Appreciate you. Go back to whatever false reality you live in. Unbelievable. I think that is the notion, though, of a lot of Patriots fans. Yes, they love Tom Brady. Love him. You saw that whenever the Deflategate thing was happening. I mean, they're ready to go to war for Tom Brady at the drop of a hat. But if Bill Belichick's still in charge up there, the mindset, as it should be, is, hey, we could put anybody there to win. Rex Ryan said this morning on Get Up that he got the chance to obviously play against Tom Brady-led Patriots a lot. Anytime Tom Brady played, they got smoked. The one time Tom Brady didn't play, they shut him out. Just because Tom Brady has that veteran experience where he knows what everybody's supposed to do, knows what's going on, and he can make every single throw, and he has that cool, calm sense about him where nothing is too big for him. I honestly didn't think he sweat for the first 15 years of his career because his eye black was always completely perfect. Now, the Matt Castle situation is a whole other story. Matt Castle came in there and won 11 games. Matt Castle didn't win a single game after leaving the Patriots. So in their eyes, it's like, hey, as long as we have Belichick, we'll be able to figure it out. They're almost okay if Tom Brady leaves. Thank you for everything. We'll move on to the next guy. But in my eyes, if Tom Brady doesn't get the weapons that he's promised, if Tom Brady doesn't have the people around him that he thinks he needs to win in New England, and not be knocked out in a wild card or lose to Ryan Fitzpatrick yet again or something like that. I think Tom Brady's going to go shop a little bit. I think he's going to, for the first time in 20 years, he's going to get a chance to feel people want him. He's going to get a chance to feel the feeling of being recruited. He's going to get a chance to go see how other facilities are. Is the grass greener somewhere else? Definitely not. I mean, the New England Patriots are the dynasty, the greatest sports of all time. But could he go somewhere like the people, like the setup, like the environment, like the neighborhood that he's in, potentially Los Angeles with the Chargers, understand that he becomes the face of a franchise for a team that is dying in a city that needs football to do well in, understand that a franchise couldn't sell out an MLS stadium? But if Tom Brady's there, there's a lot of front runners that live in Los Angeles, probably a lot of Patriot fans over there. If Tom Brady was to go to the Chargers, that place would sell out like that.
They got some weapons, too.
Weapons. Keenan Allen is a guy that is never talked about and is an absolute stud. I would assume Tom Telesco, who is formerly of the Colts, the GM, is known to be a stingy businessman. That's what he is. Bosa held out. Melvin Gordon held. There's a stingy business. But when you're talking about the GOAT, not only saving your team on the field, but potentially saving your franchise if you're the Spanos family, I think the LA Chargers are going to throw everything they could possibly throw at him. And I said this on October 24th. October 24th, I said this. Now, I know Collinsworth is saying it, and others are saying it now. October 24th, whenever we learned that Tom Brady opted out of the contract, we started looking around at places that would be a good home for Tom Brady. Everything points to the Los Angeles Chargers. He trains out there. I would assume Giselle likes it out there. TB12 would crush out there in Los Angeles. All signs point to the Chargers. It's just whether or not the Patriots will lure him back to being in New England.
Yeah, it's tough to say because I don't buy, like, oh, we can plug in Jarrett Stidham and we're going to be the same. Like, that
People are saying he looked good in preseason.
Yeah, that's not how it works. Like, yeah, they can be happy with him, but guess what? Like, the dynasty dies if Brady leaves. It just does. I mean,
quote that.
Yeah, go ahead and quote it because Jarrett Stidham isn't going to lead him to a Super Bowl next year. Like, that, it just isn't going to happen. And the reason I think it also is kind of dead and the writing is on the wall, like, that was just a different Patriots in the playoffs. That was a different Patriots team than we've ever seen. Edelman dropping balls on third down.
They look like disinterested.
They did, not being able to get off the field on third down when they always do, you know, getting stuffed in the red zone like that. It's just, those are the plays over the last 20 years that the Patriots always succeed at, and they just don't anymore.
You know what? You know what time it is? Moment of silence for the Patriots dynasty. Dead. I think they're dead. I think Tom Brady legitimately thinking about leaving. I didn't think there was, I mean, we said the Chargers on October 24th just because, you know, like whenever you start seeing things line up, you're on the stars line, you're like, that would make sense, man. Especially with the Rams who had to overpay Goff, so they couldn't pay the offensive line, which is now reaping the benefit in Tennessee for that. Their team looked kind of dumpy this year. Los Angeles people don't deal with losing well. I mean, nobody deals with losing well, but especially whenever you have like 45 beaches as options.
Exactly.
I mean, it's hard to keep fans in a city that has a lot of options. I'm not saying that the Rams fans won't be diehard out there. I'm just saying if a new toy comes to town and starts winning, it could be very easy for anybody, including me if I lived there, to be like, you know what? I'm a Chargers fan now.
Yeah.
And that's where they're at in the world in L.A., winning over fan bases, winning and building a franchise in Los Angeles. And what better way to do it than having the greatest of all time be your quarterback? Whenever Peyton left Indianapolis, when he got cut, There was a lot of rumors. They were never legitimized, so I can't say this as like a matter of fact. But there was always these murmurs in a group text I was in with a lot of players that was like, I think the NFL wants Peyton to go to the Rams because they're a brand new team in Los Angeles.
Sure.
And they would want Peyton Manning's face to be in Los Angeles. I would assume those same rumors or murmurs are being talked about with Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, leading the Los Angeles Chargers in a city where they have not had much success, both on the field or off the field. I mean, it would be... it just makes too much sense. But that press conference, Ty, that press conference, what are the chances of you retiring? Pretty unlikely, hopefully unlikely. And then when he gave his old thank you, now that lady asking Bill Belichick to thank the fans and Tom to thank the fans through thick and thin was, I mean, that was a terrible question. But I like the fact that she was trying to get a social media clip for them to thank the fans. I just don't know if press conferences are the place to do it. Maybe like on the side. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, can you give a thanks to the fans like Mike Zimmer did?
Right. In the locker room?
In the locker room, yeah. Which I could respect. But him thanking them and like saying how good it was and him opting out of the contract, I think is the biggest deal here. Him wanting to control his destiny is massive piece of leverage for Tom Brady. Godspeed to him. I'm excited to see what unfolds here because, boy, we could see some massholes just completely imploding. I mean, I guess Tom Brady jerseys are already being
people
burnt.
are lighting them on fire.
They're the best, dude.
I mean,
those people are the best. We had the winningest decade in NFL history in Indianapolis. That year where Peyton had the fused neck and we had Curtis Painter, Kerry Collins for a game and a half, and then Orlovsky. People were showing up with bags over their heads. It's like, yo, man, will you take it easy? Literally just had 11 wins for the last decade. Bags over their heads saying they're embarrassed. It's like, I'm embarrassed, too, to be out here. We're about to break a punting record. But can you just, for a minute and a half, can we understand and get a little 30,000-foot view of this whole thing?
Exactly.
Them burning Tom Brady's jerseys. I hope Tom Brady's seen that.
If he did, he's gone.
And if you're the Spanos family, you are flooding his Facebook, his Instagram, his Twitter with videos of the jersey being burnt. If you're Spanos, you're like, listen, Tom, look what they're doing to you. We don't even have fans to burn jerseys over here.
We'll retire it right now if you want us to.
You went to 12? You'll be the only player in the history of the Chargers to wear 12. You got it. All right. Did you know that this time of year is the #1 time to get engaged?
Oh, yeah.
So if you're in love and ready to get engaged, go see our friend Steven Singer, the I Hate Steven Singer guy. You've been hearing us talk about him for weeks and weeks. And may have seen his billboards, I Hate Steven Singer. Other jewelers love to hate Steven. Why? Because Steven makes buying a diamond easy. No negotiating, no haggling, no nonsense, and no BS. Just one perfect price every day, and he has the best quality, best diamonds anywhere. Check out Steven's Ready for Love diamond engagement ring collection that is ready to go. Each diamond is hand-selected and picked by his real expert jewelers. No one selling online or anywhere else for that matter does it better than Steven Singer Jewelers. He takes no-risk shopping to the next level with his full 100-day, 100% money-back guarantee and fast and free shipping both ways. Whether your budget is $500 or $5,000, Steven has the perfect engagement ring for you at the perfect price. Visit The Real Steven Singer at the other corner of 8th and Walnut in Philadelphia, or online at IHateStevenSinger.com with free shipping. Real diamonds, real experts, real jewelers. Steven Singer Jewelers. That's IHateStevenSinger.com. Congrats to the Texans getting a big win over the Bills. Josh Allen, annexation of Puerto Rico is possible every single play. I think he grew a lot from last year to this year. He's going to have to do a lot more football IQ growth from this year to next year. I think the Bills Mafia are in good hands, but the Texans, they got a tough task with the Chiefs, and I'm not 100% sure the Chiefs don't win by 50. That Titans-Ravens game is going to be tight, but on the other side, we'll talk about Jason Garrett, McCarthy, Dallas Cowboys coaching situations with a guy who predicted what happened in those meetings. We're back on the other side. This is the Pat McAfee Show.
On average, people have to wait 29.3 days to see a doctor. Anyone living with erectile dysfunction, hair loss, or cold sores knows that kind of wait just won't work. That's why there's Roman, the digital health clinic for men. Complete a free online visit, and you'll hear back from a U.S. licensed physician within 24 hours. If medication is right for you, Roman delivers it with free 2-day shipping, always in discreet packaging. Get started today with a free online visit at GetRoman.com/TV. Roman, let's take care of it.
Face old, your father's calling you from the porch. Name, so make the call. Gray, gold, your face will never be the same. Flame, bold, you'll steal the sun. When the only weapon is your name, and they won't count if you don't name. Good intentions hold us back, you should stand down. Hey, oh, hey, ooh, hey, oh, hey. Shade, control, like a cage behind the dark eyes. The games unfold, you've won. Take your soul, let it grow without a show. Make the goal and run. When the only weapon is your name, and they won't count if you don't name. Good intentions hold us back, you should stand down. When the only weapon is your name, and they won't count if you don't name. Good intentions hold us back, you should stand down and let me attack. When the only weapon is your name, and they won't count if you don't name. Good intentions hold us back, you should stand down and let me attack. When the only weapon is your name, and they won't count if you don't name. Good intentions hold us back, you should stand down and let me attack. When the only weapon is your name, and they won't count if you don't name. Good intentions hold us back, you should stand down and let me attack. Hey, oh, hey, ooh, hey, oh, hey. Face old, your father's calling you from the porch. Name, so make the call. Gray, gold, your face will never be the same. Flame, bold, you'll steal the sun. When the only weapon is your name, and they won't count if you.
Living life like no tomorrows. The sign up ahead says we might not last. Baby, we gon' party on the way out. Probably hit a party on the way out. All the night lights, hide tomorrow. They say mind the road, but we go too fast.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show here on January 6, 2020, live from 4 World Trade in New York City. Just announced this morning, about 50 minutes ago, Mike McCarthy, who slept over Jerry Jones' house on Saturday night, is now officially the Dallas Cowboys head coach. Jerry Jones was sleeping with Mike McCarthy. At the same time, Jason Garrett had not been officially released yet. I respect that from Jerry and from McCarthy. Let's see how each other are. Let me get a tour of the villa first. Let's see how the Dallas compound goes. Congratulations to both of them. I think it's a good hire. A man who has had his nose to the grindstone in this revolving situation involving Jason Garrett and Jerry Jones is on the phone. Tone Diggs, what do you think about the whole thing?
So when it came out this weekend that Jerry Jones was actually trying to fire Jason Garrett, and Jason Garrett was begging for his job and actually possibly crying when that's all that we were saying last week. Like, I was 75% joking that I thought Jason Garrett was crying in these meetings and begging for his job to stay, like an ex-girlfriend trying to stay in a relationship.
Or
When it
boyfriend.
turned out that-
Or boyfriend. Yeah, or boyfriend.
Or boyfriend. That's on me. I can't believe that was actually happening. Like, Jason Garrett, have a little bit of pride. Have a little bit of pride in yourself. Maybe he knows that he's never going to get hired again as a head coach anywhere else, but that's just not a good look for Jason Garrett.
Do you think I agree. I mean, the fact that it's come out, by the way, Jerry Jones says that he likes to treat it as a family. He views Jason Garrett as his son. Well, somebody that was in that room doesn't view him as a son, because them leaking that information to Jay Glazer is just a burial of Jason Garrett, saying he was begging, wouldn't do that stuff. Now, granted, I would beg for my job too if I was the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys and I'd been mediocre for 9 years and they're paying me a lot of money and I'm on TV and my life is set up and stuff like that. I don't judge Jason Garrett for that. Just the fact, though, that it does happen exactly how we thought it would potentially happen is very hilarious. I mean, the story, the news spin was Jason Garrett is trying to handle this delicately, and or Jerry Jones was trying to handle this delicately. No, Jerry Jones was trying to fire him day one, and Jason was like, "Please, no." And Jerry's like, "Damn, come back tomorrow. Get those tears out of your eyes."
I think it was probably actually McCarthy who leaked that Jason Garrett was doing this. I assume in this whole cucking situation, Jason Garrett was in the corner of all these meetings and probably the sleepover with McCarthy, probably filming it for future use. And I assume McCarthy was weirded out by the whole situation. He probably leaked it himself.
Okay, so let's move forward now. You know how the NFL loves to hire former NFL head coaches. I mean, Ron Rivera was on the line for any head coaching gig that he wanted. McCarthy has got a job now. Jason Garrett, although he was incredibly average at Dallas for 8 years, do you see him getting a head coaching gig again, like, let's say, in Cleveland, Ohio?
Oh, that would be awesome. So now the Cowboys interviewed Marvin Lewis, and that's who I wanted them to get, because replacing Jason Garrett, whose issue was being mediocre, with the most mediocre coach of all time, 16 years, 131 and 122, 0-7 playoff record, Marvin Lewis would have been a dream scenario for me. Now, I think Cleveland is a good spot for Marvin Lewis or Jason Garrett, because mediocre for them is a huge upgrade. So I think that's a positive for Cleveland if they bring either two of those in. I think McCarthy was an incredible hire, though, for the Cowboys. Like, McCarthy, 13 years in Green Bay, 125 and 77. If you take out his year 12 and 13, when Aaron was calling his own plays and there was some riff going on there, he had the second best win percentage in the NFL. He gets fired. He takes a look in the mirror. He goes to a coaching black site. He gets all of his staff together. He stays on top of things. I think McCarthy is incredible for this job. I'm excited to see if Jerry does like a King Henry V arranged marriage with Kellen Moore, or he lets McCarthy bring in whoever he wants to be his OC, because McCarthy calls his own plays. So I think that'll be interesting.
Yeah, Kellen Moore's out of there quicker than anybody could say Kellen Moore's out of there.
Has to be.
Has to be. All right, well, I agree with everything you just said. I honestly believe that they got it right with Mike McCarthy. I thought McCarthy was going to Cleveland. Now, granted, this is the Haslams, I guess, are just notorious at being complete failures at running a good operation, a good organization. I thought McCarthy was going to end up at Cleveland. The fact that Dallas gets him because of a sleepover at Jerry's house. Good for the Dallas Cowboys. Good for the Dallas Cowboys fans who, they have it very rough. Every year they expect to win the Super Bowl. Every year they yell at everybody else about how good they are. And every single year they stink. Now with a guy who's been there, done that, they have a chance to actually be good. Good for the Cowboys fans. Good for Mike McCarthy. Yins are getting back in charge. All right?
Yeah, well, sorry, I thought Diggs was still on the line.
So did I. Yeah. Zito hung up on him. I love that.
But I think McCarthy had kind of like the inside track, too, because he and Jason Garrett had the same agent. So I wonder if he was. Yeah, so I wonder if he wasn't just like, hey, I know Cleveland wants to bring you in for an interview. Hang tight. Jerry's getting rid of Jason today, and they want to bring you in.
How much do you love Richard Sherman attacking agents, by the way?
Oh, it's the best.
All weekend. For those that aren't on the internet that much, Richard Sherman hit all of his incentives that he negotiated into a contract himself for the San Francisco 49ers just a couple years ago. Whenever he negotiated his own contract, everybody who has an agent or everybody that is linked to agents came out and said that Richard Sherman was a buffoon, an idiot for negotiating his own deal. The Niners got the best of him. This year, Richard Sherman is just raking in incentives that he bet on himself. He negotiated his own contract, and he is holding receipts, and anybody can get some. Him and Pro Football Talks, Mike Florio, I thought we're going to end up in court together. Might still happen. I'm happy for Richard Sherman. I don't recommend it for everybody to negotiate their own deal. Richard Sherman, very intelligent human being, knows his worth. It's worked out for him. I'm happy for him, and I'm also happy for the fact that he got a chance to just troll a lot of people that talked bad about him years ago. I love a good vendetta revenge case.
Do you think that this will start becoming more normal, or do you think it's still the same thing? Like, he bet on himself, and he's obviously an incredible, like, generational talent, so it worked out for him. But you see a lot of guys trying to do this and getting hit in the ass.
Agents have a purpose if they're working,
Right.
Like I just signed with I fired a lot of agents when I was in the NFL because I didn't think they were doing anything. And anytime it comes out that you fire an agent, the agent's got their hands in everything. So the agents are like, this person's bad for firing an agent, right? They have to remain relevant and important. I got agents, right? Coonan and Klein. They've helped me out a lot this year, so I respect the hell out of them. But I think there's a lot of agents that are bad, that are only in it for themselves. They fluff up numbers that are impossible, that get leaked and reported that players will never touch. But I think if you find a good agent, you got to hang on to them. But there's a lot of bad agents out there, and I like that Richard Sherman's doing it. I don't think this is going to become a normal thing. Let's get to the phones here real quick before we got to get out of here in 2 minutes. You said there was somebody had a song about Tom Brady, Zito?
Yes, sir. Let me pull him up real quick.
All right. A guy sang a song about Tom Brady potentially leaving.
That'll be good.
I'm excited for this.
Line one, we have Mr. Ben from Virginia.
Hey, Ben, what's going on, pal? We got like a minute and a half left. I've heard you got a song. I can't wait to hear it. I love a good sing-along.
Me too, buddy, but here's the song. Whoa, 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 Brady's crying. Dun, 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 dun. Whoa, Brady's crying.
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
Oh, that was it?
That was it.
Oh, come on, Ben.
Get knocked out, but
hang up on him, Zito. I don't think Brady was crying at all.
He wasn't. He was actually grinning.
He was actually smiling. He looked like content. He looked ready to go. I like the thought of Ben bringing in a little remix there for him, but I'm not sure Tom Brady's coming back. He's in a good spot leverage-wise. Everybody knows he's the GOAT. Any general manager would want a piece of Tom Brady if he has anything left, which he does. I just don't know if the New England Patriots are the place he's going to be, bub.
Well, and for you, like, did you look forward to that first time when, like...
No. So I wasn't Tom Brady.
Well, that's what I mean, though. Like, just most guys, do they look forward to that? It's like, hey, now I'm on the open market. Like,
it depends who you are. For me, I mean, we just got a brand new GM who was not a fan of mine, and I was not Tom Brady or anything like that. So I didn't love the thought of going into the open market. I loved Indianapolis. I loved Indiana. I didn't want to move. I ended up getting franchise tagged, which added it another year. But there's a lot of guys who know their worth, and if they're like studs, know that a lot of people are going to be shopping. That's got to feel very good.
Right.
Like for us, whenever our media contracts are up.
Yeah.
That's going to feel very good.
Yeah.
That's going to feel very, very good. And I'm pretty pumped up about that. So much more to chat about here in the second hour. We've got Mark Schlereth joining us in 10 minutes right on the other side of the break to talk about all things NFL. The AFC and NFC playoffs are about to get going. Is Lamar Jackson going to stay hot? Is Patrick Mahomes going to hang 70 on the Texans? J.J. Watt's back. Anything can happen. The NFC's hot. Are the Vikings hot? Who knows? We'll be back on the other side. This is the Pat McAfee Show.
guys, if you're experiencing erectile dysfunction, you can now get treated anywhere. Like here, even here. Okay, maybe not there. That's why we built Roman. So it's easy to get ED meds prescribed online, delivered to your door. Just visit GetRoman.com, chat with a U.S. licensed physician, and if treatment is right for you, you'll get genuine medication delivered in discreet packaging. Get started with your free online visit at GetRoman.com/TV.
It's the perfect occasion for a little vacation from the heart of the nation. Not your medication, 2 hours of magic. Let's give it a go. Ladies and gents, it's the Pat McAfee Show. It's the Pat McAfee Show.
You're damn right it is, Chase Rice. It's January 6, 2020. The Pat McAfee Show is coming to you live from 4 World Trade here in New York City. I'm sitting right next to a man who's a Green Bay Packer owner, Ty Schmidt. In the back, Evan Foxy and Zito. Today's been an action-packed Monday. Right before we went on the air, just an hour and 6 minutes ago, it was announced that Mike McCarthy is the new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. He spent the night at Jerry Jones' house on Saturday. On Sunday, during the Eagles game, it was announced that Jason Garrett is officially out, Mike McCarthy officially in. Let's assume Kellen Moore and everybody else is out. Mike McCarthy, who was with the Green Bay Packers for 13 years, although it ended on a rough note because sometimes a relationship that is 13 years can do that. Mike McCarthy's been there, done that. He's coached Joe Montana. He's coached Brett Favre. He's coached Aaron Rodgers. Now he gets a chance to coach Dak Prescott in Dallas. And I think a sense of leadership and a sense of a veteran guy is coming down there, a man who stayed prepared to be a head coach all year while he was fired here, with his house becoming a pseudo football facility, breaking down film every day as if he was still in the position. I think Mike McCarthy's going to do well for the Cowboys. Congrats to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. You nailed it on the head. And I think the fact that things did end so poorly in Green Bay puts an even bigger chip on his shoulder that he probably already had.
Yeah.
I look for them to be very relevant for the next, 5 to 10 years.
He's a Pittsburgh guy, too, so he's hard-nosed, he's tough. I mean, I'm excited to see how he and Jerry get along, but I think the Dallas Cowboys got better this morning as of 9:55 Eastern Standard Time. Joining us now to talk about not only that, but all things that happened in an incredible wild card weekend. We had overtimes, we had big plays, we had a monkey get off the back of Kirk Cousins, and we potentially saw a dynasty fall. To break it all down, a man who's a Super Bowl champ, all-pro, entrepreneur, incredible friend of the show, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Schlereth.
Stink. Hey, Pat, how are you, buddy?
Stink. Life is good. Let's get to the news that just broke about an hour and 8 minutes ago. Mike McCarthy, new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Are you excited about that? Did they get the right guy? I think they did.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about it. I mean, Mike McCarthy's a great football coach. Like, my first thought process, though, was he spent the night at Jerry's house? Like, is that, like, you spent the night at Jerry's house? Like, did he walk away from that in the morning, like late morning after breakfast? Was it like the walk of shame? Did he have his T-shirt and his underpants in his hands as he's walking down, back to the hotel? Like, I just in his sock feet. I don't know what went down there, but good for Jerry Jones. Hey, listen, here's the deal, though. I hated the process.
Yeah.
Like, I hated the whole process. Like, if you know you're leaving from your coach, you know you're going to move on, fire your damn coach before you get into bed with the next group of coaches that you bring in.
Yeah.
Like, I just think the dysfunction there, and this is the Cowboys. This is the commentary on Mike McCarthy. This is a commentary on the Cowboys. Here's my thought process, and I've got a lot of Dallas Cowboy fans that are like, well, it doesn't matter. Jason Garrett's contract was going to be up in January 14th anyhow. Like, there's no right way to do something wrong. And it is wrong to have a dalliance with other coaches while you still have a guy under contract, even if his contract is going to expire in 2 weeks. So that's just the wrong way to do it. Now, I would give you this analogy. Like, if your dog takes a dump in the living room, do you correct your dog and then do you clean it up? Or do you just let it sit there for a couple of weeks? Like, which one do you do? Do you clean that crap up? And so my thought process for them is the Dallas Cowboys, regardless of who their coach is, they will never have any success because of the dysfunction of the organization. When your owner circumvents the authority of your head coach and all they have to see is how this played out, if your head coach consistently emasculates and cuts the nuts off of your head coach, if your owner does, then you're never going to have any success anyhow.
I don't know if he's going to be able to do that with McCarthy. He's a yinzer. The guy seems to be a bit hard-nosed. But apparently it had been leaked, and I don't know who leaked this, that every time Jerry wanted to tell him he was relieved of his duty, Jason Garrett would beg and almost cry and say, no, I would like to retry to earn this position. And Jerry, I guess, cares for Jason Garrett, would say, all right, we'll meet tomorrow then. And it just kind of lingered until he has another coach sleeping at his house, and all of a sudden Jason Garrett just can't take it anymore.
Right. At some point, if that's true, like if Jason Garrett broke down in tears every time that Jerry went to try to fire him, he's not the right guy for the job anyhow, right?
Well, we all know that.
That's like, right? I mean, if you're going to sit there and cry about it, I mean, anyhow, I don't know. I think that organization, and this goes back when Jerry wasn't getting his shine and Jimmy Johnson was the head coach. Like, I think this goes all the way back to then. If you continually emasculate your head coach, we've got this thing going on in Washington, right, with Daniel Snyder. I mean, when that's your owner and you're basically going to have a back staircase to the owner's office for the players to go and complain about the guy who's coaching them, you will never win. You just won't.
I didn't know that happened, but I think Ron Rivera and Mike McCarthy, two very accomplished head coaches, I think they'll be able to stand up to their owners, but we said that about Parcells. I'd assume he wasn't able to do it. Let's move on. Let's talk about some actual football. Wild Card Weekend was a thing of beauty. That Vikings-Saints game was awesome. That Vikings defense looked incredible. They looked like they looked in the first half of the season. If they can remain hot, they might be the new favorite in the NFC, to be completely honest with you, especially now with Kirk Cousins having that monkey off his back. What did you take from that game? It went to overtime, obviously. Adam Thielen makes a big play. Drew Brees almost looked amateur, and I think it's because of how that defense played. What did you take away from that Vikings-Saints game, and how do you feel about the Vikings moving forward?
I'm a fan of the Vikings. I think defensively, you nailed it. They were great. And you go back to that, I think it was a Monday night game against the Packers where the Packers beat them, and offensively, Kirk Cousins and that offense didn't do anything. Their defense was really good that game. I mean, they tied up Aaron Rodgers in that game. And you look at them, they have the ability that very few defensives have. I think Seattle has this as well. They have the ability to dictate to you, meaning when you get into three wide formations, you get into spread formations, they don't have to get out of their base. They can run in with three linebackers, and they can say, hey, we're going to match you because we've got coverage skills from Eric Kendricks, from Anthony Barr, from Wilson, that we've got the coverage skills out there at the linebacker position that we don't have to get into nickel situations. So we can cover you from that. But what happens to a lot of teams is they'll have to get into nickel situations playing one linebacker or two linebackers, and what ends up happening is teams run it down your throats because you're not big enough anymore. So they're unique that way. The way way they rush the passer, the way they can dictate to an offense that way, that really makes them a tough matchup for people. And then the Kirk Cousins thing was incredible. The way they ran the football, the way that Kirk Cousins made plays in like crunch time situations, something that was always part of that recipe. But it was interesting because I did their Week 17 game and they didn't play anybody. And so I'm talking to Mike Zimmer, who's their head coach, obviously, and I said, Mike, I mean, I'm shocked that you're not going to play your offense as bad as they were in Week 16 against the Packers. And he goes, trust me, I want to punish them. I mean, I'm seeing red. I want to make all those sons of bitches go out there and play the entirety of the game, like to punish them. And he goes, what I had to come to grips with, and I think this is brilliant, right? He goes, I had to come to grips with the fact that I looked at their previous 10 games. In their previous 10 games, they went 8-2. And I go, are we the team that went 8-2 in their last 10 games? are we the team that didn't show up and got their asses whipped by Green Bay?
Huh.
And he goes, ultimately, I decided we were the team that went 8-2. And that's why I didn't play my starting offense. I'm like, and I'm thinking to myself, I go, this is either going to be the greatest decision ever if you go to New Orleans and win, or it's going to be the worst decision in the history of football if you go to New Orleans and your team doesn't play well offensively. And obviously they played exceptionally well. Really happy for the Vikings, but really happy for Kirk Cousins because, he's had to listen to that garbage forever about how he can't play during the big games.
Well, it's kind of warranted. I mean, primetime Kirk was born in Dallas, and then obviously that Packer game looked bad. Zimmer putting his big boy pants on, though, and looking at it from a macro and saying, hey, we're 8-2, we had one bad game, is a massive, massive coaching decision. Good for him doing that. You get Dalvin Cook back. That changes everything. Defenses now have to be worried about the run game at all times. That opens things up for Rudolph, Thielen, and Stephon Diggs, who acted wild on the sideline, being up in a game, in a playoff game where your stats don't matter. I don't love that. Xavier Rhodes still that. Let's talk about Kyle Rudolph in the end zone there, the final play of the game. A lot of people are upset. Obviously, Saints fans are upset because a rule was instituted because of what happened to the Saints just a year ago with reviewing of pass interference. Alberto Riveron, they said they took a look at it, but they didn't even pause to review it at all. There seemed to be some hand jousting. I'm not sure they could have overturned the call on the field, whatever it was, whether it was pass interference or not pass interference in this particular case. But do you think they should have optically just taken a little bit of a second look at that so the Saints fans would be like, all right, at least they reviewed it a little bit as opposed to as quickly as it happened?
No, I'm like, hey, there was hand fighting. There was a grab by the DB before the push-off. So there's enough hand fighting going on there. Here's what I thought. I thought it was the ultimate in karma. Because Sean Payton's on the competition committee, Sean Payton whined and basically got that rule railroaded through in the first place because of what happened to them the year before against the Rams, right?
Yep.
Now, there was plenty of opportunity. You threw a ball on first down where you could have eaten up the clock and given the Rams no time to come back in that game. So you mismanaged the clock or mismanaged your play calling. You got that rule rammed through, which the NFL clearly didn't want to run through. They haven't overturned anything all season long anyhow. Yep. So they had no intention. They have no intention of this rule sticking. This was one of those rules they put in to see exactly how it goes, and they can take it off. This is coming off the board regardless. They had no intention of this rule ever actually sticking and becoming a permanent rule. So, I thought it was kind of karma, like exactly what happened to you to railroad this rule through that nobody wanted in the NFL to be in place anyhow is going to be the rule that essentially gets dumped because there wasn't enough evidence there in their minds anyhow. I just thought it was kind of karma. I think you got the rule rammed through and it came back to bite you in the ass.
Well, I think the Saints fans will be like, well, we got the rule railroaded through for this particular situation, but it is kind of karma coming back. 3 years straight, the Drew Brees and the Saints lose on walk-off touchdowns or scoring plays. That's tough. Let's move forward to the other massive story from Wild Card Weekend. Mike Vrabel, the Tennessee Titans, in that incredible run game, in that great defense and good special teams, went into Gillette Stadium, Foxborough, with a winter storm warning, Wild Card Weekend, and potentially toppled a dynasty. How do you feel the future fares for the New England Patriots, Tom Brady? And do you think the Titans have a shot against the Baltimore Ravens, who have looked unstoppable?
Yeah, well, I think that obviously the Titans, because they're constructed very much like the Baltimore Ravens are constructed. They're going to run the ball. They're going to eat up clock. They're going to make this thing. They're going to make this thing a seven possession game for each offense. Like a normal NFL game is about 12 possessions. There's going to be about 7 per. So it's about efficiency and what you do with it. Obviously, anytime you go into a situation like that, you've got an opportunity. The Ravens are incredible with what they're able to do, and their run game is second to none. So obviously, I'll take the Ravens. But shoot, every game I picked this weekend anyhow went the opposite way. So what the hell do I know? But it was an incredible game when you kind of take the fact that Vrabel played there forever, was kind of unceremoniously dumped to Kansas City, and and that was hurtful for him. I just thought it was cool using the Belichick against Belichick, using the eat up the clock with that inside 5-minute rule or outside 5-minute rule. on the on the punt delays of game and offside. So I just thought all that was really cool. Tom Brady can still freaking play. I mean, 43 years old, he will be in August. His skill set has not diminished like everybody is. So I find it fascinating. Everybody's ready to write somebody's obituary that hasn't died yet. And I get it. They've won. I mean, I hope, like I live here in Denver, I hope that for the next 2 decades we can win so much that when it ends, that everybody is just taking shots and that everybody is celebrating like the Wicked Witch of the West is dead. I hope that happens to us. I hope every NFL team hopes that happens to them. So I think Brady will play. I don't think it's going to be in New England. I feel like it's going to be in L.A. for the Chargers.
Yeah.
If I had to put money on it, that's probably Indy makes a little bit of sense to me. Package deal with Josh McDaniels wherever Josh McDaniels goes, but I feel like the Chargers is the one place to me that I think he has the best chance of landing.
Well, great minds think alike, my brother. I think the same exact thing. I can't thank you enough for joining us, Stink. You're the best. How's that chili going?
Chili is going good, brother, and it's for sale if you'd like to buy a couple. I mean, you've got 17 jobs, Pat, so you must be raking it in. I'll give you a great deal on it.
All right, I appreciate that. We'll talk about that off air. Ladies and gentlemen, legend Mark Stink Schlereth. Thank you, brother.
My pleasure, my friend.
He's the best, dude. He's so good. Everybody's in on that Chargers train, man. Everybody. It makes too much sense for Tom Brady. By the way, that is our story that's being built by the Home Depot. The Pat McAfee Show is sponsored by the Home Depot with everything you need to do projects smarter, faster, and easier. Welcome to today's Home Depot, how doers get more done. The story that's being built currently by Home Depot products is the Tom Brady heading to Los Angeles story. This is a massive story. Mike McCarthy to the Cowboys, big. Big. Drew Brees and the Saints potentially dead, big. Kirk Cousins getting the monkey off of his back and winning a playoff game on the road in overtime, big. But the greatest player of all time potentially leaving the greatest dynasty of all time on his own terms and becoming the face of a franchise in Los Angeles that needs it, colossal. That's the story that's being built today. And will be built probably for the next few months until Tom Brady says, this is what I'm going to do, bub.
Do you worry that if it gets blown up in the media like that, he's going to be like, screw you guys, I'm not going to let everyone dictate or predict where I'm going to go, and he just throws like a complete curveball?
He's like, you know what? I'm going to Cleveland.
Yeah.
I don't think so. 11:18 here on the East Coast, 8:18 Pacific, and all the times in between. We appreciate you listening. We'll be back on the other side with more incredible analysis. This is the Pat McAfee Show.
Years ago, I had an undiagnosed heart condition, and erectile dysfunction was actually the first sign that something was wrong.
Luckily, I'm a doctor, an expert in sexual health, and Zach's dad.
Not everyone has a doctor in the house, and some health conditions can be really tough to talk about. We started Roman to change that.
Now you can go online and chat with a physician.
And if treatment is right for you, we'll ship genuine medication right to your door. If you're experiencing ED, hair loss, cold sores, or other issues, let's take care of it.
Wash me in the water, cleanse me in the mercy of your love. I need a heavenly touch, 'cause I'll be backsliding. I need a little guiding for my soul. Only heaven knows, 'cause I just need a helping hand. It's gonna help me stand. It's gonna help me stand. 'Cause I just need stand. It's gonna help me stand. But every now and then I get a feeling in my bones that I'm just wandering on my own. So I hit my knees and I'm crying out, please, oh Lord, won't you bring me back home? Yeah, wash me in the water, cleanse me in the mercy of your love. I need a heavenly touch, 'cause I'll be backsliding. I need a little guiding for my soul. Only heaven knows, 'cause I just need a helping hand. It's gonna help me stand. It's gonna help me stand. 'Cause I just need a helping hand. It's gonna help me stand. It's gonna help me stand. 'Cause I just need a helping hand. It's gonna help me stand. It's gonna help me stand. 'Cause I just need a helping hand. It's gonna help me stand. It's gonna help me stand. Wash me in the water, cleanse me in the mercy of your love. I need a heavenly touch.
When's the last time you were driving through a storm and thought, wow, I love not being able to see when I drive?
A week ago.
Oh, you probably haven't. Now driving in bad weather doesn't have to be a headache thanks to the new Michelin Endurance XT Silicone wiper blades. These blades last through everything. To prove it, Michelin just put their new Endurance XT Silicone wiper blades to the test on a world-breaking 16,000-mile drive from Alaska to Argentina. Had no idea that was possible. They did that just to show how durable these blades are. Rainer Zietlow was the man behind the wheel, and he put the Michelin Endurance XT silicone wiper blades through ice, snow, rain, thunder, and wind, and the blades took all of it. These blades are crafted for extreme weather performance with an advanced Quad-Tech 4-layer coated silicone that repels water, snow, and ice and lasts 2 times longer than those other crappy blades. The Michelin Endurance XT silicone wiper blades are real-world proven for extreme weather performance. Upgrade to the Michelin Endurance XT silicone wiper blades today only at Walmart.
Wow.
Alaska to Argentina.
What kind of vehicle is that?
Don't cry for me, Argentina. I had no idea you could drive that.
Well, I think you have to drive across the ocean in order to do it, so it'd be interesting to see what kind of vehicle he was in.
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show. January 6, 2020. Just had Mark Schlereth on the show here the last hour talking about how the Cowboys' dysfunction will ultimately be their downfall no matter who they hire. I'm intrigued to see how McCarthy does. We also talked about Tom Brady potentially being a Charger. I think that's kind of everybody's sentiments now that we kind of started on October 24th, 2019. Mm-hmm. No big deal. That's what we do here. If you're new to the show, because I do know that we got launched on a lot of new stations starting today, welcome to the party. We might not be for you. Big brains, entertaining, takes from real humans doing real things. You might not love it, but I will let you know this 17-game NFL season, my idea. Tom Brady, the Los Angeles Chargers, my idea. Duck Hodges being an undefeated quarterback, our idea. This is the dumbest show you ever listened to, and we appreciate you for listening. The Seattle Seahawks had to travel across the country to play the Philadelphia Eagles just yesterday. And DK Metcalf is a man that everybody passed on. At the Combine, his physical specimen and the photos of him and his 40 were something that were just alarming. I mean, it was next level. He ran a 4.3 40 at 6'4", 229 pounds. To put that in perspective, I'm 6'1", 255. He is 6'4", 229, chiseled. He is what my after photo will never, ever be. He is a monster. His three-cone drill, though, was slower than Tom Brady. And for some reason, even though his dad was an NFL offensive lineman, it's in his genetics to be an NFL player, he was slept on by everybody until the second round when the Seattle Seahawks stole him. Started out a little slow, got hurt, and yesterday was his coming out party to the world, letting everybody know that although I've made some big plays this season thus far, whenever the game was on the line, 3rd and 10, fourth quarter, Russell Wilson threw a hold 'em up, and DK Metcalf perfectly judged that thing. One up, high pointed that, end the game, stood up, chucked the deuce to all of Philadelphia, and walked off the field. Seattle Seahawks beat an Eagles team that was wounded. They were not only a wounded bird, they were barely surviving. Josh McCown started at ESPN just this year. Now he becomes backup quarterback for the Eagles. Now he starts playing because Carson Wentz, the only really healthy player that they've had all year, gets hurt on a disgusting shot from Jadeveon Clowney. Now, I don't think Jadeveon Clowney's intent was to go helmet to helmet. Some people do think that. I was on ESPN this morning with Bart Scott. Bart Scott said to be that tall to get down that low, he had to do it on purpose to go helmet to helmet. I'm not saying that because that's quite an accusation to say that he did that on purpose. He was definitely going down to hit him late, though. And in a league that protects quarterbacks, for no flag to be thrown there, wild to me. I'm not saying Clowney meant to hit him in the head. I won't say that because that is a very big accusation to say that a guy who's that large, that athletic, is diving, trying to spear somebody in the head. It was helmet-to-helmet contact no matter what his intent was. It was a late shot, and Carson Wentz is a quarterback in the NFL who should be protected, wasn't protected, no call, no nothing. Carson Wentz is out, McCown's in. Wounded bird gets even more hurt. They had no chance against the Seahawks. Russell Wilson, though, in the Seahawks, loved it. I mean, Russell did an interview after the game, and he dropped 45 cliches in a minute and a half. Is that accurate, Foxy?
Yes, sir, at least 45.
Foxy cut up his interview, and it was 45 cliches. It was unbelievable how positive he was and how now cliches are cliche for a reason. They hold true in most cases. But the way Russell Wilson speaks turns a lot of people off. A lot of people think it's disingenuous. In my eyes, I think he's like that all the time. So it is genuine. Good for Russell Wilson getting that win. Now, they have to go to Lambeau against the Packers who've had a week off, who win games ugly. Fun little fact here I got from Hembo at ESPN this morning. The Green Bay Packers are the worst-ranked team at defending the deep ball, okay, in the playoffs right now. 20 yards or more, worst-ranked team. Seattle Seahawks, best team in the playoffs at the deep ball, 20-plus yards or more. They showed it last night. DK Metcalf scores a touchdown. DK Metcalf seals the game. DK Metcalf is a tough guy to defend no matter what. Are the Packers worried about the Seattle Seahawks, who just beat a wounded bird in Philadelphia, traveling into Lambeau and getting a win strictly because Russell Wilson has this unique ability to win games that they should not win? He has this incredible ability to throw a ball up into a place that his wide receiver can get it that nobody else can get it. If they can get pressure on Russell Wilson, I guess that is really everything, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
The Smith brothers have to be full effect.
Exactly, because the Marshawn Lynch being back, I mean, obviously for goal line situations.
Can't believe I didn't even talk about that. Beast mode happened.
Yeah.
I don't think I've been happier watching a game that I wasn't involved in or I wasn't betting on. Like Marshawn Lynch scoring a touchdown from 6 yards out, bouncing off of somebody, steamrolling them as if he was rolling out of a Escalade of Skittles in Canada to come do an interview with us. I love that Marshawn Lynch is back and looks pretty damn good. I'm just not 100% sure that's even going to be enough for the Packers.
Yeah, well, the deep ball, that definitely is something that they have struggled with all year, but I don't see them getting burned on like 4 deep balls. Like, yeah, maybe 1 for a touchdown, but the Packers, and a lot of people are pointing to their recent success against the Seahawks at Lambeau. In the last like 5 years, they're 4-0. But I mean, you throw that out the window. They're completely different teams, especially with under a new coach and everything. I just think that the Seahawks just didn't really impress me yesterday. For all intents and purposes, the Eagles still had a chance to go tie that game.
The Eagles could have won that game. Josh McCown gets sacked on 4th and 7, by the way, with the game on the line. That can't happen. Josh McCown knows that. By the way, Josh McCown, very emotional after the game. Would not have expected that from a guy. I guess he knew that was probably his last go.
Right.
Which, by the way, more power to him. Josh McCown will not get enough credit for the athlete that he is. Dude gets buckets. I mean, I posted a video on my Twitter last night, not a lot of people have seen before. He's a good athlete. He's a good teammate. He was at ESPN. Now he's back in the league. He's just been good for that locker room, especially being banged up. He doesn't get sacked there on 4th and 7 where they're in scoring range. They tie that game up. Very banged up, very injured on a second-string quarterback. That is the tell there for the Seattle Seahawks.
And before that, they were on, the 35-yard line. They had that 4th and 3. They threw that little swing pass, and, they convert that 4th down. They at least get a field goal there.
Miles.
I don't know. It's just, it's tough to say. Granted, Russell Wilson is so good that you can never count them out. But
so is Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly. And yes, the Seahawks are the best road team in the NFL this year, but I still don't think you can discount how big of a deal it is playing at Lambeau in the playoffs. Supposed to be bad weather next week, swirling winds, snow. The Seahawks aren't that great at stopping the run either. I think they're going to get a very heavy dosage of Aaron Jones.
Have you seen, just personality standpoint, 2 personalities that contrast each other more than Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers seems to hate everything media-wise. Russell Wilson gets in there. He's ready to go.
Looking for the camera.
He's ready to go. He crushes it. He dominates it. Aaron Rodgers is sick of hearing about how bad he is. He's sick of hearing how bad their team is. They're number 2 in the NFC. They're 1 stop away from being the number 1 seed in the NFC. Aaron Rodgers is a guy that's fueled by spite, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And he has a lot to be fueled by this particular season. He just bought that house in Malibu. I'm going to be hitting golf balls out of it at some point. I'm putting that out there just so it hopefully happens. But he is at his point now where he said earlier this year that he could see hole 18. He knows there's not a lot of time left. In this team, with the Seahawks coming to town, I think is the best setup for them. Now, that deep ball can be scary, but if you can get pressure on Russell Wilson, you're good. For me, this feels like a Packers win at Lambeau, and I can't wait to watch it. Now, the Vikings-Niners, I'm not 100% sure the Vikings can't win that game. I like the Niners. We've had a station since day 1 in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And people have come after me for not being a Niners believer. At the beginning of the season, I wasn't, because last year we were told how good the Niners were going to be. Jimmy zigged instead of zagged, blew his knee out. They stunk. This year there was no hype going into the year, and that defense became ridiculous.
Yeah.
Stingy, to say the least. That team is very, very, very good. I love the Niners. Obviously, they're number 1 seed in the NFC for a reason. Santa Clara, George Kittle, Jimmy G, you name it, Hyde. They got a great team over there. I just don't know if this Vikings defense stays hot, how they move the ball, and if Kirk Cousins, with all of his weapons, can move just a little bit with Dalvin Cook in the backfield. I mean, that's going to be a great game. I'm excited for it. I like the Vikings' chances more than I like the Seattle Seahawks' chances against the Green Bay Packers.
I agree, and I think that line opened up at San Francisco -7.5. That feels awfully high.
That's very, very high, but we don't know what we're going to get with the Vikings.
Right.
We have no idea what we're going to get with Vikings. We just talked to Mark Schlereth just a little bit ago. He talked to Mike Zimmer, and Mike Zimmer said they rested their players in Week 17 after getting throttled Week 16 against the Packers. And Schlereth talked to Mike Zimmer, and Mike Zimmer said, I had to look at this from a bigger view. Yeah, we just got beat. I wanted to yell at him, but we're 8-2 in our last games, and we're doing well. So they have the chance if they piece it all together. Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, Kyle Rudolph, Stephon Diggs, stop throwing helmets at the sideline whenever you're up in the playoffs. It makes no sense to me how that happens. I don't fully understand how the culture in there can let that happen. Even with Xavier Rhodes yelling at people all the time, when I watch Darius Butler's videos, it seems like a lot of it's Xavier Rhodes' fault. So body language fines happen, I think, in there for him. If they can keep it together and play their best football, I think they could beat anybody.
I think so too.
That defense, what they made Drew Brees and that offense look like was a bad football team. I thought Drew Brees was going to hang 30, 40 on them. Instead, it was just 20. Get to overtime. Needed a big drive to get to overtime with that 49-yard field goal by Will Lutz. I think the Vikings, though, if they're playing all three phases well, can keep up with anybody. But the Niners team has earned that number 1 seed. I'm excited to watch that. Titans-Ravens. The over-under right now is at 46. I like the under a lot in this game. I think the Titans are going to commit to the run, and the Ravens are going to commit to doing what they do, which is just a Lamar Jackson show. Best offensive line in the game. They got weapons and tight ends. They got Hollywood Brown out there that extends it, and they got the best athlete on the football field anytime he steps on the football field, and Lamar Jackson. But this Titans team, somehow, some way, has won games. Now, they struggled against Deshaun Watson whenever they played Deshaun Watson in meaningful games. I think that could lend a problem facing Lamar Jackson, but they just went up there into a very hostile place, in a place that you could potentially get caught looking at the pinstripes like the Yankees, and they win a massive game, toppling the dynasty. I think the Ravens win, but I think this one's going to be a lot closer and a lot lower scoring than people think, mostly because Vrabel and that team have taken on Vrabel's identity, which is just a hard-nosed, badass team that's ready to fight anybody.
Do you put anything into the fact that Tennessee has a lot of momentum right now coming off that win, and Lamar Jackson basically will not have played in 3 weeks? Granted, he's going to be healthier than he probably has been in a while, but Tennessee is outside of the Vikings, is probably one of the hottest teams in the NFL right now, just from a momentum standpoint.
Yeah, it's so interesting to think about resting your players and getting bye weeks and things like that, because the outsider thinks, well, they don't get a chance, they could potentially fall out of their groove or their rhythm or something like that. But most NFL players think, I get 2 weeks to rest my body.
Right.
Marshall Yonda and the boys up front get a chance to rest their knees and their shoulders and maybe get reinvigorated for a run here in the playoffs. I think ultimately the rest in the bye week is a present, it is a gift, and it is very well deserved. Maybe the first drive or something, you might see them a little bit out of touch, but ultimately in the end, the lack of conditioning and cardio that they had to do this past weekend, just get to relax, will end up helping them. I think it's good. I would love a break. That's why bye weeks are so awesome. That's why next year with the 17-game season, I think they should have 2 bye weeks in a neutral site game like we've been saying since the beginning. And Texans-Chiefs. That Texans-Bills game was wide open. I did not expect that game to be the way it was. Josh Allen is electrifying to watch.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have no idea what's going to happen every single play. It's like watching Jameis Winston. You have no clue. Jameis Winston could keep both his team and the other team in the game at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions. He says, I'm balling.
Look at my stats.
Look at my stats. I'm balling. Give me $30 million. Not a lot of self-awareness for Jameis, but we've known that ever since he ate the W and all the other stuff.
Right.
But he did throw all over the yard because of Bruce Arians' offense, and he can make every throw. He just had all his turnovers. It was fun to watch Jameis Winston, though, because at any given moment, all hell could break loose. Josh Allen feels the exact same way. That game was fun to watch. Not only do you have J.J. Watt back, unbelievable. I watched the feature that they did on him on ESPN beforehand, where he said the doctor gave him a little sliver of hope to get back, and J.J. Watt took that little sliver, put it on the door, and kicked the door down, because that's what J.J. Watt and the Watt family does. He was hitting tires with sledgehammers and running sprints and everything that J.J. Watt does. The fact that he got back in under 2 months for something that's supposed to be like 4 months is insane. And not only did he just come back, he had an effect on that game. J.J. Watt, I hope he can stay healthy for longer, because whenever he's playing football, it's better for the game. He is exhilarating to watch. It really is. But Josh Allen, it felt like every single play could have went to the house, or every single play could have been a turnover going the other direction. That was fun to watch. Josh Allen's, I don't want to say low football IQ or football immaturity, but his lack of experience, I think, hurt him late in that game.
Right.
And the Texans were able to get a win with Deshaun Watson there. But I think going into Arrowhead against a team that is stacked, just stacked, and their defense is starting to play good football. You got T. Sizzle back there, probably getting back in shape a little bit for taking off a little bit in Arizona. I don't think he had a lot of plays out there. I think a lot of the things ran through Chandler Jones out there for good reason. He had like 20 sacks or whatever. 19, whatever the hell it was. It was an insane amount of money. You got him, you got Tyrann Mathieu, and that offense can score on anybody. J.J. Watt's going to have to be a game wrecker up front. I mean, they're going to need him to do that. Whitney Merciless is going to have to do well. But, boy, I don't know how you keep up with the Chiefs if you're the Texans. I assume they're wondering the same thing. Although they beat them earlier this year, the Colts also beat the Chiefs earlier this year. I think the Chiefs have become a very different team now, and I think this is going to be a tough one for the Texans, even though I like what the AFC South did. The AFC South on Saturday handled business. Texans win, Titans win, AFC South, all of a sudden a division that nobody wants to mess with. But this Chiefs team, especially with a week off, let Patty Mahomes rest that knee even more. Let Tyreek Hill rest it a little bit more. Maybe he's a little bit more explosive. Hardman, Kelsey, Watkins, LaShawn I mean, you just go through the list of names that they have. I mean, that's going to be a tough one for the Texans. I honestly believe. I thought the Bills were a better matchup.
Yeah.
Just strictly because the Bills' defense has been able to corral people. But, boy, I think 3 of these games are going to be very good games. I think the Texans-Chiefs game is potentially going to be a rout.
Yeah, I tweeted this on Sunday while watching the game when the Bills were up 16-0. I said the Texans have to fire Bill O'Brien after this game, and I still think they should. Like, really, outside of
nobody can fire. They don't have anybody that can fire.
And that's the problem. But outside of Deshaun Watson just putting the team on his back and J.J. Watt making a couple of those very timely plays, like they had no business winning that game, none whatsoever. The Bills outplayed them almost the entire game, and then, like you said, Josh Allen down the stretch just kind of the moment got too big for him. But
what was he doing tossing that ball? There's like a minute 20 left, pal. You got a timeout. So
there was no one behind him either.
And you're a quarterback. You're supposed to be good at tossing a football to somebody else. He was nowhere near. He missed that guy by 5-10 yards. I have no idea what happened there. But trying to make a play.
And I think you're right. You know, like, yeah, the Texans beat the Chiefs earlier this year. That might as well have been a lifetime ago. Not the same teams whatsoever. I like the Chiefs to win by, I don't know what the line is right now. I might take an alternate line of them, like minus 21.
I honestly believe that. And I don't like that we agree, because normally if a lot of people are thinking something, there's no chance of it happening. But, boy,
it's just tough not to after this weekend. The eye test just says that they're going to beat the hell out of them.
Now, JJ said that all they needed there whenever they were down was a spark.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 16-3 or something they were down? I think?
It was 16-0, but yeah.
Down 16, the Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. All we needed was a spark. Anytime you have D4, you have a chance of beating a game. And I think Deshaun Watson is one of the most competitive individuals I've ever seen. That play where he gets speared in the front and the back at full speed, spins out, makes a play so they go on and win, was magnificent. Phenomenal. Nothing short of that. Deshaun Watson, although Dabo Swinney called him Michael Jordan when he was coming out, I do believe he is he's not Michael Jordan, but he is incredible at football. Mm-hmm. But if you're down 16-0 to the Bills and you need a spark to get going, if you get down to the Chiefs, you're not catching up.
All game.
I don't think you're catching up to because Andy Reid had an off week. Andy Reid could have drew up about 45 more plays, and all the plays work because of how many weapons they have. Mm-hmm. I just don't know how the Texans have. I'm excited to watch. Any given Sunday or Saturday, whatever day they're playing, is possible. I understand that. But this Chiefs team, I think they're excited for their matchup. I don't think they wanted the Bills. I think they're excited that the Texans are coming to town.
According to FanDuel, Chiefs minus 10 it opens at.
Yeah, see, that's a massive spread.
It is.
That is a massive spread for a playoff game. 10. That's going to go up, too.
It might.
I think it's going to go up, which kind of scares me now that I think about it. But this Chiefs team, fresh, rejuvenated, new plays being drawn by old Andy Reid. I mean, it's going to be like a beautiful mind. I think we're running right into what we always wanted.
Chiefs are scoring touchdowns in the red zone there, too, not kicking field goals. So,
and they're scoring touchdowns from their own 10.
Yeah,
I mean, the Chiefs. I think the Chiefs-Ravens are what we're in for, but I'm excited to watch that Titans-Ravens game. I think the Packers get a win over the Seahawks, and I think that Vikings-Niners game is a toss-up. I have no idea what's going to happen because we don't know what Vikings team's going to show up.
Right.
If the Vikings team that could shut out and shut up Drew Brees, which is they didn't shut him out, but basically they made him look like an amateur. Mm-hmm. If that team shows up, we got a good one in Santa Clara. I'm pumped for that. We got to get to a break. On the other side, we'll finish the show up with some phone calls, 1-833-622-3331. Overreaction Monday, January 6, 2020 has been a good one here from World Trade Center, New York City. Apparently, Zito, when we leave here, there's extra security outside. Why is that, Z?
Yes, sir. Like a block away, it's the Harvey Weinstein trials starting right like 20 minutes ago, actually.
That scumbag's guilty.
Hang him.
Oh,
Do they need
happy.
us to walk in there and say that?
I was actually going to cover it if that's all right with you.
Zito trial journalist would be incredible. What if Zito walked in there and goes, he's guilty.
I'm wearing my hot dog sweater too, so I'd fit right in.
Give him a death sentence. 11:44 East Coast, 8:44 West. We'll get some phone calls and end the show up. You're listening to the Pat McAfee Show.
On average, people have to wait 29.3 days to see a doctor. Anyone living with erectile dysfunction, hair loss, or cold sores knows that kind of wait just won't work. That's why there's Roman, the digital health clinic for men. Complete a free online visit, and you'll hear back from a U.S. licensed physician within 24 hours. If medication is right for you, Roman delivers it with free 2-day shipping, always in discreet packaging. Get started today with a free online visit at getroman.com/TV. Roman, let's take care of it.
So now you're here again, knocking at my door. A little too late for, I'm sorry for. The lights went out cause you kept cutting the cord. And I started to fade into your gray. See, I finally opened up my eyes. And I saw me coming back to life. That I'd be better without you inside. It's time to be someone I wanna recognize. The future starts right now. I made a reservation, but you never came, so I'm checking out. The fire you stole away. I know one day we'll come back around. The future is now. The future is now. The future is now. I waited for you in the passenger seat. There's only so far I can ride in your dreams. While you were chasing everything else but me, I'm starting to break out from your grave. See, I finally opened up my eyes, and I saw me coming back to life. That I'd be better without you inside. It's time to be someone I wanna recognize. The future starts right now. I made a reservation, but you never came, so I'm checking out. The fire you stole away. I know one day we'll come back around. The future is now. The future is now. I'm not backing down, 'cause the future is now. Not backing down, 'cause the future is now. The future starts right now. I made a reservation, but you never came, so I'm checking out. The fire you stole away. I know one day we'll come back around. The future is now. The future is now. The future is now. So now you're here again, knocking at my door. A little too late for, I'm sorry for. The lights went out cause you kept cutting the cord. And I started to fade into your gray. See, I finally opened up my eyes, and I saw me coming back to life. That I'd be better without you inside. It's time to be someone I
Welcome back to the Pat McAfee Show here, January 6th, 2020. Let's get to the phones. Zito, who do we got?
Yes, sir. We have Elliot from New York.
What up, Elliot?
Hey, Pat. All right, a couple quick things. Number one, obviously, we need some new refs. This is terrible. Every week there's a new blown call. The Rudolph thing was inexcusable. Number two, Tom Brady. I love you, Pat, but you fallen victim to what everyone else has. He's not the GOAT. Look at the advanced statistics, touchdown to interception ratio, completion percentage, a bunch of others. Rodgers is much better than him. And, he's the GOAT of the postseason, 100%. Will not dispute that. He's the most clutch quarterback in terms of stats. He is not the best. He's maybe not even top 5. I'm not sure. Number three, postseason overtime. Overtime has got to change. Every year we have it, a playoff game where it ends on the first drive. And also, the coaches should be able to challenge plays. It didn't come up this weekend, but it definitely could. I think that should be changed. Thank you very much.
Elliot, I respect your energy and your passion. You said good friend of our show, Aaron Rodgers is the greatest of all time. Can't debate that. Tom Brady has 6 Super Bowl rings, though. That is why you have to have him at the top, and everybody else would agree with that. The overtime. I'm happy you brought that up, Elliot, because on Get Up this morning and on other occasions on this show, I have fixed the overtime problem. Last year, Patrick Mahomes didn't even get a chance to get back on the field because the overtime went down, scored on the first drive. This year, Drew Brees doesn't even get a chance to get back on the field. There's no rebuttal like in beer pong with the overtime rules. If you lose a coin toss, that offense scores. You're crap out of luck. Our answer is this. You play an extra 10-minute quarter. Yes, full classic football. Tackling, snapping, throwing, catching, running, kicking. And after that 10-minute quarter, whoever's in the lead wins. If it's tied, guess what? We have more. We have a 2-point conversion shootout, sudden death style. One offense and one defense is on the one side. One offense and one defense is on the other side. This side goes, if they score and this team doesn't score, congratulations, game over. If they both score, let's do it again. If they both don't score, let's do it again. 3 max. Think about that moment. If one side doesn't score, the other side does score. Them sprinting to each other in the middle of the field. Grand celebration as if it was a penalty kick shootout in soccer, sprinting, yelling, we did it, we did it. We played 5 quarters, we couldn't find a victor, but our 2-point conversion shootout, sudden death victory was awesome. Let's say after 3, we don't have an outright winner. Let's say they both scored all 3 times. They both didn't score all 3 times. It doesn't matter how it happens, there's 3. Now what do, Pat? Well, I have the answer for you. Have you ever heard Alexander Hamilton? Do you know what Alexander Hamilton created? It was the duel. After those 2-point conversions, if we still don't have a victor after 5 quarters, if we still don't have a victor after 3 2-point conversions, shootout, sudden death style type things, you go to a kicker duel. Each team's kicker and his holder go out from the 50. Well, it's from the 40, but it's a 50-yard kick. One kicker kicks it. If he makes it, the other kicker must make it. If he does, they back up to the 55. If they both miss, they stay there. If one makes it and one misses it, he's the winner. If they both make it after 3 attempts, no worries, we have an answer. Now you bring out a non-kicker to come kick an extra point, and whoever can win wins the game. You're welcome, Goodell. Just like on Get Up, just like on this show, we fixed the NFL overtime.
Who says no?
The people that say no are people that don't think there's a problem in overtime, and there's definitely a problem when Drew Brees and Patrick Mahomes can't get a rebuttal like in beer pong. But I like the NFL. The NFL is the greatest game on earth. That's why we have a show that we enjoy every single day. We can't wait to chat with you tomorrow. This has been the Pat McAfee Show from New York. New York, you're the best.
Hey guys, if you're experiencing erectile dysfunction, you can now get treated anywhere. Like here, even here. Okay, maybe not there.